Transport Commissioner, the Transport Minister, the Traffic Head of Delhi, Mr. Maxwell Pereira, all were saying कि सर आपको चाहिए क्या? फिर भी हमें इसको बंद करना पड़ा 2005 में. I had to sign the death warrant after I was called to a board meeting and asked whether you want to defy the board. So I said, no, sir, how I can defy the board? He said, you will not go back to your office. You will make the letter here in the corporate office. You will deliver the letter to MNRE on the way and then go back to your seat. And Mr. Chopra, the senior advisor, sir, आपको याद होगा.
एसके चोपड़ा प्लानिंग कमीशन से ही गए थे वो, डॉक्टर एसके चोपड़ा.
वो इतना मेरे से नाराज हुए कि कई दिनों तक उन्होंने बात नहीं की मेरे से. और एनीवे एक और दुखती रोग है 4000 मेगावाट सोलर पीवी प्लांट जो कि कंसीव हुआ. बहुत उसकी भी लंबी कहानी है सर. पौंडीचेरी में आपका टाइम देंगे तो सुनाएंगे आपको.
श्योर.
थैंक यू. 4 मिनिस्टर और 6 सेक्रेटरीज इंटरेस्टेड थे. बट व्हेन गॉड इज नॉट विलिंग दैट विल नॉट हैपन. आई बिलीव इन दैट. ठीक सर, सॉरी.
No problem. Welcome everybody. First of all, my apologies. All of my devices were connecting me but refusing to connect the audio piece. And so that's what went wrong. Apologies. It's great to see everybody for the Friday Forum. This conversation is both there are several CEOs of AICs, ACICs who are online, but then this is also being streamed on YouTube Live. So there would be other folks on there. So we're having a very important conversation about the India Innovation Index. This is something that the Niti Aayog has recently published, the third edition of. We have a very special guest, Shri Neeraj Sinha, who is the Senior Advisor, Science and Technology at Niti Aayog, as well as an additional secretary. But more importantly, for Atal Innovation Mission, he has been, within Niti Aayog, he is the longest standing Atal Innovation Mission supporter, as well as not just supporter is a very mild word, actually, a co-conspirator in putting together all the cabinet notes, responses, and advising us through various complex situations. So Neeraj ji, a very warm welcome to you. I think this would be an enormously valuable conversation to many of our stakeholders today. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I think what we're going to do now is we will I'll first hand it to Neeraj ji for giving us a very brief overview of the India Innovation Index, the work that he has been spearheading at Niti Aayog, and as to what it is, where it stands, all of that. After that, I will get us going with a question or two just to lubricate the conversation, but then we're going to open it up to anybody who has questions for him. So we'll try to reserve as much time as possible for all of you. So without further ado, let me just hand it over to Neeraj ji. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Chintan ji, and thank you for the very generous introduction. I mean, frankly, I don't even deserve half of what you have said, but then yes, we definitely are co-conspirators. So that I agree with totally, because it was the science and technology vertical which actually seeded the idea, along with, of course, the then CEO of Niti Aayog, the then Vice Chairman of the Niti Aayog, and the member Science and Technology of the Niti Aayog, to start the Atal Innovation Mission way back in the financial year 2015-16. So since then, we have been brothers in arms, and I'm sure we'll continue it that way. So first of all, good afternoon to everyone present here who have taken time off their very busy schedules to be with us. The Friday Forum is a very interesting way of interacting on a myriad set of topics, and the aim, I'm told, that an Innovation Mission does it, I think, at fairly regular intervals. So it's my privilege to be a part of this particular Friday Forum and talk about something which, is very close to the hearts, not just one heart, but several hearts in the science and technology vertical of the NITI Aayog. Quite a few of my colleagues from the S&T vertical are present here, and also, welcome all of them, along with all of the colleagues from the Untitled Innovation Mission and from the AICs and everyone else who is online. So I'll just quickly go through. Chindanji, do I have about 10 minutes, 5 minutes? What is the kind of time? I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
10 minutes is good.
10
Yes.
minutes. Okay, I'll start now. Let me try to share. Yeah, so I presume my presentation, the first slide is visible to everyone, and I'm also largely audible. So just to quickly run through the India Innovation Index, there is a small history to this. This was much before I joined. I came to the NITI Aayog from the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India in January of 2019. And when I joined, I was introduced to the India Innovation Index 2019, which was under formulation at that time. And a lot of work had already gone into this. And it will be very important for me to also acknowledge the fact that the knowledge partner of the NITI Aayog in bringing out successive editions of the Indian Innovation Index is Institute for Competitiveness, which is based in Delhi. And Dr. Amit Kapoor, who is the chair of the Institute for Competitiveness, is in regular touch with us. So why innovation? Now, we all know that in today's world, when margins on business are continuously going down, and when there is a cutthroat competition for selling even a pen in the global market, leave alone the domestic market, we need to continue making incremental innovations in whatever we do to ensure that at a minimum incremental addition in cost, we are able to maximize the revenue to the extent possible. Now, when I say that, innovation is not necessarily related to science and technology. In fact, it is not related to science and technology in several ways. For example, there can be an innovative method in which I, let us say, comb my hair. There could be an innovative method by which I eat my food. There could be an innovative method by which I lie down on a couch and sleep for getting better sleep. There could be an innovative method for me to start driving so that I save on fuel to the extent possible. So innovation is too vast a subject to capture in just this PowerPoint. Here we are going to only focus on the way NITI Aayog very astutely and very far-sightedly started bringing out the Indian Innovation Index for two reasons. One is to bring in a spirit of competitive federalism, or let us say, make the states compete with each other in a healthy manner to ensure that while competing with each other, all states continue to rise as far as the innovation capabilities are concerned. And the second is cooperative federalism, which is again the mantra in NITI Aayog, where we in the NITI Aayog handhold states, guide them in what they should do, what they should not do through this index to make them understand that there are some easy and low hanging fruit which they can easily pluck if they are able to follow their own innovation capabilities. And this index only guides them in achieving that. So the index, ranks India in three major categories. There are 17 major states, 10 northeastern and hill states, and there are 9 union territories and city states. Because we cannot compare, let us say, Punjab to Andaman and Nicobar or Lakshadweep to Uttar Pradesh. So that is the idea. And as I've just said, this can be, the innovation index can be a very pointed and a very accurate guide for policymakers in deciding that where should the limited resources of the state go. so that the economy of the state gets the maximum possible boost. Now, as I was telling you already, we started bringing out the India Innovation Index in 2019, and we have recently just brought out the third edition, which is the India Innovation Index of 2021. Now, we incidentally are trying to follow the example of the Global Innovation Index, which has been around for almost 2 decades now. And quite a lot of the framework through which the scores are calculated is modeled after the framework of the Global Innovation Index. Now, as I just said, we started in 2019. So here we are only showing 2020 and 2021, and 2022 is now in the pipeline. We should bring it out very shortly. The only thing I wanted here to be emphasized was that over a period of time, we want to match or surpass the number of indicators that are available in the Global Innovation Index. So the GII has 80 indicators, whereas our India Innovation Index had 36 indicators as far as the version of last year is concerned, that is India Innovation Index of 2020. So we consciously did a lot of hard work and brought the number of indicators from 36 to 66 in the India Innovation Index that was released in the July of 2022. Now this is the framework. There are 5 enabler pillars and there are 2 performance pillars, and the names are visible on the screen: human capital, investment, knowledge workers, business environment, safety and legal environment will comprise of the enablers, and knowledge output and knowledge diffusion will comprise of the performance pillars. And a ratio of the 2 gives the innovation efficiency, and an average of the enabler and performance scores of any given state will give its innovation score, based on which we rank the states every year. Now, this gives you a rationale of why we have looked at all these 5 factors as enablers and the 2 factors as performance pillars. And this will obviously come out when we discuss more, so I'm not spending too much time on this. Now, methodology is, the first is we identify the indicators, then we start collecting the data. Now, this is the toughest part, because here we are supposed to continuously interact with the states. In fact, we conduct workshops with the states as frequently as required. I mean, they are generally online workshops, where the states ask us questions on what exactly is the meaning of, say, a given indicator, and what is the kind of data they need to collect, and in what form are they supposed to send the data to the Niti Aayog, etc., etc. So this is the toughest part, and in fact, we wanted to match the 80 indicators of the Global Innovation Index in the India Innovation Index of this year itself, that is 2021, which was released in July. But we were not able to do it because we were not able to collect data and ramp up the number of indicators from 36 of last year to, let us say, 80 of this year. But still, we made it to 66, and that was no mean achievement. All our colleagues in the Niti Aayog, including the Institute for Competitiveness, had to really work very hard to get the data from the states. Now, categorization, I've explained, there are 3 categories, and analysis and of course the principal component analysis will also come in the following slides. Now, this gives the India Innovation Index rankings of the one which was released this year. Karnataka has continued to occupy rank number 1, and the noticeable entrant in the first 5 is Haryana, which has literally broken the glass ceiling and come to number 3 this year. And Maharashtra occupies number 4. Similarly, Jharkhand is at number 10, Madhya Pradesh is number 13, and Chhattisgarh is at number 17 in the major states category. In the northeastern and hilly states, we have Manipur with a score of 19.37 as rank number 1, followed by Uttarakhand, Meghalaya, and so on. And finally, in the category of UT and city states, Chandigarh occupies number 1, Delhi is number 2, and of course, Andaman, Nicobar, Pondicherry, Goa, J&K follow with the respective scores of 17.29, 15.88, 14.93, and 12.83. Yeah. So now, what are the learnings and the recommendations that we want to highlight to our very esteemed audience here? First is the gross expenditure on R&D needs considerable improvement and should touch at least 2% of the GDP. This is what we keep saying all the time. And without that, we as a country will find it very difficult to achieve the aim set out by the government of being a $5 trillion economy, and it cannot happen without giving the innovation capabilities of the states the required push. Now, when we say, obviously, it all adds up to India being innovative in all our states rise on the innovation scale. So, and the more innovative we are, the better is the shape our economy takes in the years to come. Now, the other learning we saw was while states and UTs have performed very well in the human capital pillar, but somehow that has not translated in a directly proportional manner in the knowledge worker pillar. So somehow we have not been able to use the human capital to the extent we should be using to ensure that the knowledge worker pillar also has an equally high score. Now, number three, intangible assets like patents and trademarks to create spillovers in economy. For that, commercialization of technology is vital. Now, while India is very good in, and India is picking up as far as publications are concerned, and we are very good in using the very, very good managerial and technical skills we have in our college education and university education system. But then we are lacking by way of translating the output of a project from the benchtop scale or the lab scale, as we call it, to the market. Now, this is where we need to definitely fill the gap. Then next comes the fact that our industry, or rather the private sector, is found lacking in investing in R&D. Now, when you look at the developed economies, especially the Western economy by way of European countries or the United States of America, a sizable portion of R&D investment is brought in by the private sector and not by the government sector. The government is only a catalyst in most projects, whereas in India it's the reverse. We need to change this, and empirical evidence from South Korea, US, and Germany, as I've just said, says that public expenditure is only productive up to a certain extent. After that, the R&D has to be driven by the private sector. And finally, India needs to undertake efforts in creating goods and services which have been ignored for a long time. So this is something which we have been seeing in successive editions of the India Innovation Index. So this is largely what I had to say, and thank you for your time. But I have some backup slides. If there are questions related to those, I can bring them on. Thank you so much. Should I unshare the presentation now?
Yes, I think that will be better.
Fine.
And if you need a slide or so, then we can.
Yeah, I can pull it back. I can pull it back.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that overview. I think let me get us going. I'm sure there will be more questions here. People, please feel free to. It may be easiest if you just raise your hand and somebody calls on you. And we could do that, but let's get it going. So Neeraj, I think I mean, as you clearly demonstrated, this has been a journey for us from the time we started to how we are now increasingly adapting this index to the Indian context. And so from the index perspective itself, we have had a 3-year journey so far. What would be your sense that, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is nearly perfect and very satisfactory from the Indian context perspective, where would you say we are, and how long do you think, how much more do we need to do in order to get to a more complete version?
Okay, so you know, it's my own personal assessment. I could be way off the target, but I would say that we are somewhere near the halfway mark, because and why I'm saying this is that India as a country is ranked by the Global Innovation Index, as I just mentioned, and there we have shown a very rapid rise in the innovation ranking of the country. And in the past roughly 6 years, from 2015, where we were ranked 81, we were standing at 46 in the Global Innovation Index of 2021. That was brought out in the September of 2021. So, and now very shortly, the Global Innovation Index of 2022 is set to be released. It is on the 29th of September. We are expecting to go quite a few notches up. So I would say that on a scale of 1 to 5, let us say we are at 2.5. We have completed half the journey, but we still have another half to go, and which I'm sure we are all primed up to cover at a pace which is going to be as competitive as any other country in the world.
Yeah, no, that's great. Sorry, I may have I may not have asked this very clearly. I was also meaning in terms of the index itself, design of the index. Are there pieces that we still hope to incorporate to make it even more relevant to the Indian context?
Sure. No. Of course, the answer to that is a very clear yes. I mean, we are continuously improving upon the framework, and in fact, this time in the Indian Innovation Index of 2021, we had added a special chapter on distance to frontier. Now, put it very simply, I mean, here we are trying to compare a given state with the best in class, and we kind of give a numerical value to the distance that that state needs to cover to reach the top, say top 5 or top 4 or topmost ranking in the country. So we are definitely being innovative in designing the framework of the innovation index as well. Now, we also, as I said earlier, are planning to increase the number of indicators further. From 36 to 66 is what we have done between last year and this year. And between this year and the next year, we intend to cover at least, I mean, let me put it very modestly, but at least 15 more indicators to cross the 80 mark of the Global Innovation Index. Now, the moment you bring in more indicators, you are refining the process further, and you are distilling the indicators and the activities that go into giving a score to the indicator further. So it becomes a lot more detailed and involved exercise as you keep on increasing the indicators. So yes, we are definitely improving upon that to the extent possible, the framework.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, there are a couple of hands up. Let's go to Rakesh Ranjan. Great to have you, sir.
Yes, sir. Rakesh Ranjan here, sir. From AIC Bihar Vidyapit, Patna. Sir, I have a question that you are talking about in
Rakesh ji, we lost.
Defining in terms of numeric, what kind of conversion you are just taking care to convert those parameters into numeric?
No, I didn't follow. Actually, your audio had broken in the beginning. You want to know how are we converting the innovation performance to numbers? Rakesh ji, can you hear me? No, I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to understand how are we assigning a numerical score to the innovation performance for a given parameter, let us say for a given indicator. So what we do is that based on the data that is collected, there is a complex exercise that goes behind the scenes, which is done jointly by the Institute for Competitiveness and our colleagues in the S&T vertical. We assign scores first to a given indicator, and from the indicator we wrap it up to the sub-pillars. There are sub-pillars within the 7 pillars. And then we ultimately take an aggregate of that and come to the pillar score. And once you divide the knowledge pillar scores with the, or rather once you divide the two scores with each other, and it gives you the innovation efficiency, and an average of those two scores will give you the numerical ranking or numerical score of the given state as far as the innovation is concerned. I hope I have been able to, or should I go back to my presentation? I don't know. I can't.
I think let's see if there's more. Rakesh, we can't hear you fully,
Yeah,
so
we
maybe you
can't.
can type, and I'll pick up that question. And if there's more to ask, we'll ask. Let's go to Pratik Biswas. Pratik, you had your hand up next.
Yes, thank you, Neeraj sir, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
My question was regarding I saw different states, union territories being ranked, and I could see states like Jammu and Kashmir, union territory like Leh ranking very less. So my question was, when we are collecting the data, and you clearly mentioned that we had to do different types of workshops with the states and UTs, uh, is there any by any chance
हमको भी नहीं सुनाई पड़ा
any indication that maybe the workshops with those states that are ranking at the bottom might have been done less, and as a result of that, maybe they are ranked below than the other ones?
Frankly, no, because uh, uh, we are conducting these workshops not state-wise. We do it for everyone taken together. The idea of doing that is that once you do that, you are actually allowing one state to hear the other state's story and other state's version as well. So it's a very transparent exercise that is done. All the workshops that we do, we have participation by all the states and the UTs. I mean, of course, it is on voluntary basis. If they have a doubt, they join. If they don't, then they don't join. But it is not that we may give out some different lessons to, let us say, a given state, and some other different set of lessons to some other state. It is not like that. It's a very common platform we use.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Let's go to Vinodji. Vinodji, you have your hand up.
Sir, we have a number of engineering colleges as our academic partners. And what I have been proposing to them is that a lot of work gets done as a part of the final year project curriculum. But more often than not, this just gathers dust as a report. So can we take it forward? And some of our partners have shown very keen interest. And last year, with Bundelkhand Institute of Engineering and Technology, Jhansi-based this thing college, we conducted the first projectathon. So essentially, final year students and how they do it, and we got a reasonable response out of that. We got 8 to 10 and 3 very good ideas, and 1 finally onboarded with us. The other 2 were keen, but they did not. So my question is this innovation being already captured, or if not, does it need to be captured? And a related thing for your advice is how we can push it forward. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So the way I've understood is what you are saying is that there are project ideas and there are some deliverables of some project work that have been done by engineering colleges, but that are not seeing the light of day. Is that right?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So no, it is a very valid point, and obviously you might have seen in the learnings and recommendation that I had shown. The third recommendation was exactly this. See, and I had specifically mentioned the fact that while India is very good in developing benchtop models and demonstrating a given technology at the lab scale, and maybe beyond the lab to the pilot scale as well, but we are not as good as the Western world in taking that pilot scale deliverable to the market. Now, the reason for that is, first of all, the answer to your question is yes. If we are able to translate technologies to the extent possible into products, it is definitely going to give the given state in which that engineering college is located a big boost in its innovation score. In fact, it can ramp up the score like anything if you're able to not only develop but also commercialize technologies. That is the answer. But then, how do you do it? See, that is the leg of the development cycle where the industry participation is a must. Now, the other learning which I showed was somehow our industry in India is lacking as far as investing in R&D is concerned. Now, that is where, we are at cross purposes. While the industry wants to spend little and buy technology from wherever it is and not spend much on developing, I mean, the government of India, through its academic institutes, through universities, wants to spend money, but without the industry handholding, we cannot go beyond a point. So we need to, have this academia industry interaction in its most vibrant form to ensure that we are able to translate the maximum number of technologies in a given period of time.
Great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Let me also add on that note that you may be knowing this already, Vinodji. There is a significant effort in this direction is techpedia.in, which tried to catalog all of the senior final year projects from all sorts of engineering, all engineering colleges onto a single platform and create a massive database of it. This is this at least allows somebody to catalog it somewhere from where one can sort of take it further. So worth looking into. I'll put a link in the chat room, techpedia.in. So let's go to.
Thank you, sir. Actually, our main aim was the pipeline. So that is what direct advantage also we are getting out of this effort.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's go to Durga. Durga, can you hear us?
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, good afternoon. So my question was that I have also gone through the India Innovation Index entire ranking, and there's a portion called knowledge diffusion. So what was the intent behind having that into the innovation index scoring? And also that if we are talking about knowledge diffusion, how could we bring it more on a inclusiveness criteria where the community efforts are also captured into that index, if that's a possibility, trying to understand.
No, see, I'll tell you, as I was saying in the presentation, we have 5 pillars for enablers and 2 pillars for called the knowledge pillars. So they call them as input and output pillars. Let us put it that way simply. Now, knowledge diffusion is what is translation about. Now, suppose there is some knowledge that is generated in a given project in a lab or in a given college or a given university or wherever. Now, developing that knowledge takes care of the knowledge development part, but the diffusion of that knowledge into a given product and ultimately that product bringing revenue to the developer and adding to the GDP of the country is what matters. So that is the, as you say, the icing on the cake. Unless you diffuse knowledge into a product, you really don't gain anything out of the entire development exercise. So that is why knowledge diffusion is an important output pillar, or call it a knowledge pillar or whatever, performance pillar. Sorry.
So, sir, are we also looking to capture somewhere that the remoteness of certain places where there is a little scarcity of educational institutions and all? How inclusive can our innovation periphery get larger in those kind of states where this is underscored?
See, that is where we say that the policy makers, if they study, like you have studied, hats off to you. If the policy makers also study the index word by word, they will realize what are the shortcomings in a given state. For example, like you said, there are, let us say, in the state of, let us say, Jharkhand especially, where there are quite a few tribal districts, and the state of Chhattisgarh again, where there are quite a few tribal districts, and then the state of Rajasthan, where the western part of Rajasthan is very thinly populated because of very harsh climatic conditions. I mean, the so-called desert, the so-called hard desert. So now it is up to the policymakers to deduce what is lacking in their state and which geographical location of the state, and develop policies to address that shortcoming. So that is how this is supposed to serve as a very strong guiding light to policymakers in the states and the union territories for that matter. It's a very valid point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
It looks like Rohit has a hand up. Rohit, you have a question.
Hi, sir. Thank you very much for the informative presentation. I just have a small query that I want to understand from you. That India's GERD is currently consistent at 0.7%, and this has been there for the last decade or so. Now, to reach 2% kind of a level, there has to be a path. So, what is the proposal? Where exactly do we invest this huge amount of money? Is there any thought that has been put behind this?
No, that's a very valid point, Rohit, and that is what I said earlier, and it is related to the one of the learnings and recommendations that I showed. See, ultimately, the government investing that amount of money does not happen anywhere in the world, including in the US. I mean, I cannot really be very sure, but I vaguely remember that the ratio of government expenditure to expenditure by the industry in the US is 4:6, or 40% by the government and 60% by the industry. So in India, it is exactly the reverse. I mean, I don't have the figures for India offhand, but I don't expect the contribution by industry to be more than, let us say, 20% of what this 0.7% stands for. Now we need to reverse that. That is where we have been harping upon in all our documents in the Niti Aayog, including one which we had brought out, which frankly didn't see the light of day. It was the vision document of 2035, if I remember correctly, the exercise which was started by Dr. Rajiv Kumar way back in December 2019, the then vice chairman. So there our major recommendation was that it is the industry that needs to start investing. And it is for their own good ultimately. If they invest, if there is a positive thrust that comes from that investment to the economy, ultimately they gain back. So, but that is something which we are lacking at. And frankly, I mean, other than cajoling the industry, making them aware of how important it is for them to invest, I don't see any other policy measure that. And of course, there used to be earlier a benefit in the Income Tax Act of the Government of India, where if you invest a given amount in R&D, if you're a company, then I think 2 times of that money was deducted from the tax that you're supposed to be paying. But that feature is also, according to what I've come to know, being removed from the Income Tax Act, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So these are the kinds of incentives we can give to the industry to actually invest. But then we need to be very proactive on that. And the Government of India has to think out of the box to ensure that we are able to bring the industry in the mainstream as far as R&D expenditure is concerned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rohit.
Great. Thank you. We have Dr. Sanjeev Patni. Sanjeev, you have a question.
Good afternoon, all. Sorry about that. Some problem with the video. Sorry. My question is fairly straight, sir. That I mean, while we're talking about all the kind of policy measures to be taken at the government end, that's the kind of central government end. My personal agenda is to really try and see how the ecosystem of central India really moves many notches above in a short while. So, what's your suggestion on how do we work together with a triangular approach of industry, academia, and the ecosystem partners together? How do we really get them together? I mean, government is of course kind of super power around, but even aside of that, how do we work together on this? Because there's no binding element actually.
Yeah, you're right. So, Dr. Patni, it is like this. In my career so far, I have had the opportunity of working on several industry-sponsored projects, not one but several. So, while the general impression we have is that the Government of India generally tends to fund projects only in academic institutes and in the Government of India labs and in universities, the truth is far from that, because let me tell you, a lot of government ministries and departments, I won't name just a couple of them, there are quite a few, and I don't want to name them for obvious reasons, have been encouraging investments from the industry to ensure that the academia, the industry, and the government join hands to arrive at a common product. Now, there are several examples to this. I can give you one example where there was a project implemented by the organization I used to work in earlier, where the IIT Madras wanted to develop a state-of-the-art grinding machine, the next generation grinding machine. And the best grinding machine, by way of cutting parameters, is one which is manufactured in Germany. Again, I won't give you the name of that machine, but then it is a German machine. And we wanted to outdo that machine at all levels, leave alone the price. Our price, we are cheaper than the West in any time of the day. But we also wanted to outdo the cutting parameters and the roughness figures that machine was supposed to be given on a given job. So we then roped in through the Indian Machine Tool Manufacturers Association, a company which is one of the best companies in the country as far as manufacturing of grinding machines is concerned. The company willingly participated, and we had to give a kind of a request for proposal to ensure that we give a level playing field to everyone before selecting one given company. That company joined IIT Madras, and my earlier office funded the project. The company also gave in money, by the way. I mean, they also contributed up to I think 30% of the project cost by way of providing manpower, by way of providing their IP, and by way of also allowing their infrastructure to be used for constructing the new machine. And let me tell you, after a lot of hard work, we were able to deliver the next generation precision grinding machine, which outsmarted every detail of the German machine. And we proved it through actual testing by the advanced machine tool testing facility, which is in Bangalore. And that machine is now standing in IIT Madras. And anyone who wants to go and see it can have a look. And we routinely, there are jobs that come to the IIT Madras from various automakers in and around Madras, asking for a given component to be machined and delivered. So,
sir, my simple point around here, sorry to interrupt there, but was to really how to induce innovations so that the triangular parties come together and develop the culture and a system of innovation, or the thinking process of innovation around in the region. And for that, I'm pretty sure that funding is not a kind of major issue. It's only a question of the bent of mind, or the kind of some kind of compulsive order or directives to come through from the kind of state or the central government to work in conjunction, just so that the culture of innovation picks up rapidly.
See, okay, to answer that, let me tell you that there is already a effort which was made jointly by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and the Niti Aayog under the chairmanship of the former Vice Chairman, Niti Aayog, where we developed science clusters. Now, you're right, if you have to bring people together and make them invest, you don't need to invest money your own self. The example I gave was to only show you how potent the combination of academia, industry, and government can be. I mean, a simple academic institute delivering a world-class product. And not many of us know about it, by the way. So here, the science clusters that have been developed are in Delhi and in Bangalore and in Hyderabad and in Pune. And I'm told there is one coming up in Jodhpur. There's another one coming up in, I think, Bhubaneswar. So there we are, the funding from the Government of India comes in the form of nucleating the core strength of the cluster, which will mean employ a handful of people, and then get the entire science ecosystem of that particular region, be it Pune or Hyderabad or Bombay, Hyderabad or Bangalore or Delhi, to come and work together on common projects. And investments have already started flowing in from the industry in this model. And by the way, you will be happy to know that the Global Innovation Index released the ranking of science clusters. and India has found to be outdoing even established countries like Sweden, Switzerland, and if I remember correctly, UK also in that particular aspect. So these things are happening. I mean, but this is one of the several mechanisms that can come to our mind. But science clusters definitely is a very potent mechanism to get people to work in the consortium mode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have two more questions which we will take. I think these are the last two we will take. To Sanjeev, one quick thought, very recent experiment that I encourage all of you to do. Sanjeev, with your leadership in the in Central India. Last week, I was in Gujarat and met with a number of chambers of commerce. And in our discussion, we arrived at a point where I requested them if they could document those materials. For instance, we were talking to the chemical industry, which we import on large scale. Can we substitute those materials? For example, a zeolite-like material, chemical industry in Gujarat alone imports for several thousand crores. Now, substituting it will require engaging R&D, but if you do it, then there's a very clear business case, very large business case. So we have done that kind of thing in defense, but we haven't thought like that in other industries. If we can, and only industry knows this. Academia doesn't know it. Governments know it in statistics, but don't know how to do it, and so on. So I think I felt very encouraged that if we can list a few such opportunities, we can really go after them in a tripartite way.
So, sir, we are actively encouraging the Management Association, the Association of Industries, and the Ministry of MSME to come out with a kind of a forum on which we can encourage the MSME to come out with problem statements, like the auto cluster in Madhya Pradesh. If they come out with problem statements of certain kinds, say not automation itself, then a number of possibilities could emerge. We could include the engineering colleges and the management institutes to come forth with some kind of solution at their own cost, but serving the industry. That's what we are trying to encourage as a kind of culture, as a kind of change thinking process. But it's got its own kind of course of long queues.
Yes, that's right. Well, thank you. No, but that's very encouraging. Let's go to Siddhe. We have Siddhe followed by Naman. So let's go to Siddhe.
Thank you. So I would like to understand that the India Innovation Index 2021 has a theme. Can you tell us a bit about the theme and why there was an importance to have a theme for the report?
Yeah. Okay. So this was a new thing which was introduced in the
We cannot hear you.
I believe he's having some network issues.
Some audio issues. Let's see. Let's give a few seconds. Should perhaps sort itself out.
Sir, until then, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
We also got a lot of audience in our YouTube community.
Yeah.
And one of them, Dr. Rakesh Mishra, he's asking, what role do you see ATLs playing in improving the innovation ecosystem of a state and India on the whole, sir? So how do you look at it, sir?
Yeah, so I think maybe Neeraj ji is back, but what I know is that the India Innovation Index in its human capital pillar has two buckets, one of which is a school level interventions, and another one is at a higher education level. And in the school level intervention, ATLs is a specific component measured there. So ATLs are already factored in as I see it. Neeraj ji is back. He can tell us more.
Actually, I didn't hear whether Siddhe, somehow I could see all of you, but I don't know if you were able to hear me. Siddhe, did I answer your question or not?
Sir, we lost you somewhere in the middle, sir.
Oh, really?
Sir.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So what was the point where I was lost? Should I repeat myself or?
Yes, sir, please, if you could.
Yeah.
Brief, sir. Yes.
Yeah, Siddhe, you're saying something.
Yes, so we actually we lost you right after you started. That's all I was adding.
Really? Oh, then let me repeat. See, Siddhe, your question was why have a theme in the index for the first time? That was your question, right?
Yes, sir. Why have a theme, and how does it help us understand innovation better?
Right. So actually, I'll just repeat what I said. See, the idea of the theme was frankly mooted by the vice chairman and the member and the CEO during one of our routine meetings, which we had with them on the approval of the framework for the Innovation Index of 2021. Now, why the theme? The theme was, if I remember correctly, Dr. Rajiv Kumar had said, let us create a kind of a discussion on the given topic and use the index as a forum for that discussion. And the index, of course, is widely circulated across all states and UTs of the country. So the idea was to get people to start talking about the given topic. What we thought was important for innovation could not necessarily be the same viewpoint across the country. So we wanted to entice people to come back to us with comments on why they agreed or why they disagreed with us as far as the theme of the index was concerned. That is number one. Number two, it was also important for us to bring to focus the fact that the given theme was central to improving India's innovation capabilities in the long run. First the states, and the states obviously aggregate to the country. So these were the twin reasons, if I remember correctly. So did you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Okay.
So I think on that note,
I think Naman wanted to ask a question.
I think Naman asked that question while you were gone.
Really?
I mean, while we couldn't hear you. Basically, the question was, somebody was asking on YouTube Live that what is the role of ATLs in the index? And I said that ATL is a explicit parameter that we have factored into the human capital component pillar.
Okay. That's right. That's correct.
Sir, in the index one, yes, thank you so much for that answer, sir. In the index one, and in the so in improving the innovation ecosystem on the whole as well. So how do you see ATLs doing their part while we look at it, sir?
Is this for me or for Neeraj?
For you, for Neeraj, sir, both of you, sir.
No, I think Chinnaji, it's for you because ATLs will take a back seat.
So here, so basically, see, the way you want the innovation funnel, if you would, is that you want the input to it to be open to anybody and everybody. And the younger they join the funnel, the better it is, because it will take a lot of failing and trying again and all of that, right? And that is the role of the ATL. ATL doesn't exclude anybody. There is no cost to learning making in ATL. I think, again, we do see a lot of excitement here already, which may seem anecdotal, but if we do it well, I think in few years it will make a big difference to people who have learned design thinking, entrepreneurship very early, who have learned how to articulate problems, how to come up with solutions, how to capture value, these things. So it will have my hope is that it would have a significant impact. If you look at the India Innovation, to link it back to it, India Innovation Index has a very beautiful description of how earlier on, we were thinking about labor and capital being the factors of productivity that led to economic growth. Then came along Robert Solow. He said, listen, it's not only that, technology and innovation, and Joseph Schumpeter, these enhance actually labor and capital. And the human capital that's able to work with innovation is a key component of it. And I think ATL
Fantastic.
get us going fast, early.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So super. So, well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Neeraj ji and team for this dedicated effort over years to, bring measurement to our innovation ecosystem. We look forward to seeing more of it. And thanks again, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we will see you in the next Friday forum. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.